And in this video, we're going to actually be walking through and applying change of character to our charts and learn how to spot it and how we can add it in as a confluence in our trading. Before we actually apply it to a live chart, I just want to kind of do a quick recap of what we're looking for, because I feel like change of character can be kind of confusing. It's also something that you can see anywhere on the chart. So we're going to mostly focus on like actually spotting it and applying it to our chart right now. But as we get through towards the end of the course, I'm actually going to do a video where we can apply everything into one fluid motion to frame a trade. So I don't want you to actually get too caught up in finding change of characters, finding a change of character in an actual trade right now. I just more so want you to get comfortable with the idea of what it is and what it means and how to spot it on a chart. Because if you try to take that and apply it to actually frame a trade around right now without having the rest of the confluences that we need and the rest of the understanding, then it's going to be a little bit overwhelming and you're going to see it everywhere on a chart. And we need to actually know where and how to apply it. So before we actually apply it to a naked chart, let's go ahead and just do a quick recap of what we're actually looking for and what it means. And so with change of character, as we talked about in the last video, it's basically the earliest sign that a swing pullback or trend is going to continue or end. Okay. And so the key to this is understanding which direction you're actually trading and understanding that a change of character really only truly matters in high value areas like in supply and demand zones. You're going to see change of character throughout many different charts and many different time frames, but it's once it's actually applied to the proper areas of a chart and also compounded with other confluences is when it's going to make the biggest difference. So let's go ahead and just draw out what exactly a change of character is and how we can use it to spot either the beginning or the end of a trend. So in the normal market conditions, we have higher highs and higher lows, or lower lows and lower highs. In this example, first, I'm just going to do a bullish market. So we have a run, we have a pullback, continuation, and we have a break of structure of this high, pullback, continuation, and pullback, and a continuation. And let's say at this point right here, we're going to we're expecting the market to begin to turn around and go the other direction. So from this point, from this low to this high, we aren't necessarily looking for a break of structure or a wick. So from this low to this high, it doesn't actually have to be a break of structure. What can happen is price can rally up and just wick this previous high right here and then come back down into this range, and it can also wick this low right here. And so up until we actually wick this low, this is actually a normal market condition. So if you're just trading in this range, you would still expect price to continue bearish. So you'd still expect a new low to form in this area and then a new high to break above this high here. But with change of character, what happens is price can actually come down and wick this low. And if we wick or even break below this low, this first initial reaction in the market is what we consider to be a change of character. And so when we are looking at the best areas, the highest probability areas for a market to reverse, and we see a change of character, what usually happens is we either get a wick of this old low or an actual break of structure below it. And then price retraces back up into this high, and then it breaks this low again. And we then retrace again, and it continues on, usually breaking free after that change of character and break of structure. Price will usually break free and move pretty quickly. That's a little bit, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. Right now, we just want to talk about change of character. And so at this point, in the previous videos, we talked about break of structure and what the difference between candle close, candle body close, and candle wicks are. At this point with change of character, we don't actually need to have an actual break of structure. It can be just a wick. And so this is something I go into a little bit more in depth in my course that I have If it's something that you feel like you are struggling to understand, or maybe I'm not explaining it as in depth, or perhaps I'm not explaining it as in depth as I should be for the free YouTube video, you can definitely check out the course and see if it's something you're interested in. And so in the course, what we do is we actually go over the difference between a wick and a candle body close and what that means more in depth. But for right now, all you really need to know is that from this high to this low and then back up again, it doesn't actually have to be a clean break of structure. Once we trade right above this high, this can actually just be a wick in the market, and it can then retrace back down and wick this low again. So basically, all we need to have is an actual wick above this high, which we can then So basically, all we need to know is that this low needs to actually attack this high, and it can either wick or close above it and come back down and attack this low, which it can either wick or close below it. And so I'll just to help symbolize this, I'll just put this here, that it can be an actual wick or it can be a candle body close. And this first down move, wicking a low that actually did something, so that's the important part to keep in mind here, is the low that the change of character is happening on has to have actually done something. So if the market actually looks something like this is not a change of character. The low had to have actually taken some form of liquidity or broken some previous structure in order for it to count as a change of character. And again, this can happen on any time frame, any chart. It does not matter what time frame or what chart you're looking at. Again, it's totally like this is applicable to any instrument in any time frame. Okay, and so once we have our change of character, like I said, it then usually retraces back up, respects this newly created high, and comes down, breaker structure, mitigation, breaker structure again, and a reversal has actually taken place. So many times what can happen though is, and this is why we're going to go in depth in the putting it together video and so this is why we're going to actually go a lot more in depth in a video at the end of this course where we actually put it together, because there are many different ways to actually enter a trade in here. You don't necessarily need to enter a trade just on the change of character. You can wait for a second break of structure after the change of character. But there are many people who, once we learn all of the confluences that we can apply to a chart, will take the change of character in every situation because they know it's a high probability trade, and you're also going to be in at the absolute earliest point in the actual reversal of the market. And so now that we have that, let's go ahead and check out a bullish change of character. So this is actually a bearish change of character. Let's go ahead and do a bullish change of character, and it's gonna be exactly the opposite. And it's going to be exactly the opposite of what we're looking at here. And so just to do a quick refresher, we have a run down, pull back, break below this old low. And I'm not going to do as many highs and lows in this one. So we would then come back up after we have a lower high that actually does something and breaks below this old low. So this run actually does something, breaking old structure or at least wicking old structure. Price would then come back up and it would either wick this high or break above it. And the minute that it happened, the minute that it trades 1 micro pip above this high right here, this would then be a change of character. Typically, we would see it come back down and mitigate this low, respecting it, rallying again to break this high, pulling back, and then continuing. And so at this point, again, just a refresher, this right here can actually be a wick. It does not have to be a actual break of structure. It can be a wick, and again, with the change of character, this can be a wick right here. So just to be really clear, this point right here and right here is actually the change of character. So I don't know if I have a, yep, I do. Okay, so we have a change of character here and a change of character right here. So the minute that price trades below an old low that actually did something, that's a change of character. The minute that price trades above a lower high that actually did something, so this leg actually did something by wicking or breaking below this high or this low, the minute that price trades back above it, even a micro pip, that's a change of character. And then we have, it usually comes back down, respects this, and continues on. And so when I'm saying it usually comes back down and respects this newly created low or this newly created high, this is in actual high value areas like supply and demand zones or flip zones, which is something else we talk about in my course a lot more in depth. It has to actually be in an area where price is likely to reverse. If you just look at a chart randomly without doing any kind of markup or analysis, you're going to see this everywhere, and it's going to be confusing. And I just want to really stress that a lot, that it's not necessarily always just going to be like a perfect change of character and like this perfect, price action right here. And you will see it in trends. Like we can have trends that are doing something like this, where it runs, pulls back, runs. It can then wick this low right here and then come back up here and then break this high, pull back to mitigate that and continue going. And so if we have a wick like this, it doesn't necessarily mean that the market's actually going to reverse. That's just a liquidity grab where it continues on and breaks the high and continues the actual bullish trend. And so that's what I'm trying to, I just want to make that really clear that like, just because you get a wick of an old low does not mean that the market is going to reverse. We need to actually compound that in with more confluences like supply and demand, flip zones, swing highs, swing lows, all that kind of stuff. So I think that kind of gets the refresher going. We have a little overview of like what we're actually looking for. And now let's go ahead and actually apply this to a chart. For this example, I want to look at, I think it was February 20th. Yeah, Monday, February 20th, right in this area right here. I actually traded this first setup that I'm going to show you. And then there's another one that I'm going to go over too. I actually took a trade right here on Monday, February 20th. Today, at the time of filming this, is the 22nd, Wednesday. And this was, if you want to find this on your chart, this is on the Australian dollar versus the US dollar 5-minute chart. And the actual change of character is happening at 8:45. Excuse me, actually. The actual change of character is happening at 8:45 Eastern time. The actual change of character is happening at 7:45 Eastern time on Monday, February 20th. And there's also going to be another one back here on Sunday, February 19th at like a little bit before midnight or like 10:30. Yeah, about 10:30 on the Australian dollar, on the Aussie US, on the Australian and US dollar on the 5-minute chart. So again, I don't want you to get too caught up in like actually framing a trade yet, because we haven't gotten to all the confluences and like how to enter and everything. I just want to show you these examples for actually applying it as a change of character. And once I show you these two, there's also a few other ones that I want to show you to prove the point that it doesn't necessarily mean, like this is not the end all be all for entering a trade. And so let's go ahead and go over just the actual change of character right here in this zone. Maybe you can already spot it before I actually mark it up, but I'll go ahead and mark it up really quick too, so you can actually see it. And this was, yeah, like I said, this was actually a trade that I took the other day and closed it for about 5R gain. I was actually looking to target an old high that was up here, but it was also a holiday. So yeah, once I started to get into this area, I just ended up closing it and taking what I was offered. So let's apply change of character to an actual real chart now. Basically, the reason why, there's many different reasons, which I'll go over in later videos as to why I'm trading in right here and why I was actually looking for a trade. But what I want to show you is that we have there's multiple reasons why right here. Okay, we have a high that has a wick right here, and that's not a break of structure, but that is after we wicked. Okay, and so now let's actually apply this change of character concept to an actual blank chart. And so there's many different reasons why I was trading in here and why I took this trade, which we'll go over in later videos when we actually put all of these steps together. And honestly, this is a really messy zone right here, and it was confusing. I remember sitting here trading, thinking like, I don't really know exactly what is happening, because we have lows breaking down right here. We have this low right here getting taken, and then we have this low right here getting taken, and then it comes back up and wicks above this high, so it's taking this high. And honestly, it's just really confusing. Like, I didn't know what to expect, and so I was just sitting here waiting. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually apply change of character to our chart that we're looking at now. Anyone who's experienced trading, this is actually a really messy range, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend looking for trades in this type of range if you're a beginner trader. This is really messy. It was also a holiday, so I wasn't really expecting much. I was actually at this moment in time when I took this trade getting ready to actually just close up shop, because I didn't even realize it was a holiday. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually apply change of character to our charts now. What I want to point out here is there's going to be many different changes of characters in here. And so again, we'll go over this in later videos when we actually put it all together. It definitely matters where you're actually trying to frame a trade around for changes of character. And so right at this point right here, in this area, we do have a change of character. And I just want to point out that this is really messy price action. So like, I have my reasons why I was taking a trade in here, but if you go back and look at this, you may not see a reason that lines up with your trade plan, and that's totally okay. I really just want to focus specifically on the change of character and what happens after the change of character and apply that to a chart. So we have a move up that wicks. You can see it wick this old high right here, and then pulls back. And at this point, we have, if you were watching this live, you have this wick right here, and then price actually pulls back up to form this high, and in the same candle forms or at least attempts to form a new low right here. We can see it wicks this old low, and so it's not actually like a break of structure, it's just a wick, and the candle then retraces back up into this zone. So retraces back up and back through here, pulls back, and then at this point right here is the change of character, pull back, and then continuation. And so I wanted to actually like illustrate it with the line, because it can be kind of hard to see this stuff with the candles. Essentially what we have is a pullback, a small pause in price, a continuation, which is also, so essentially what we have is a pullback after a rally. So we have a rally up, pullback. At this point right here, this is actually a pause in price action or a pullback on a lower time frame. Price tries to continue to go lower, but it actually fails, comes back up, pulls back, and then it breaks this high. So let me actually get rid of this now that you can see that. The minute that it trades above this high right here, even 1 micro pip, that's a change of character, where it then pulls back into this zone and continues on for the continuation of the trend. And so, like we mentioned earlier and in the last video, change of character is the earliest sign, the first sign available that a actual pullback or a trend is continuing or ending. And so right here at this point, this is a pullback, change of character to give us the sign that it's likely that the trend is actually going to continue. After the change of character, we pull back and we actually continue the trend and break this new high. And so let me just to add one confluence that we do have from our course so far is a break of structure. And so we do have the break of structure that you can see that, targeting this new high. the trend is actually targeting this new high. And so I want to explain and break down this change of character and like what it actually means and what's happening here. On a lower time frame, this is actually pulling back. So if you drop down to a lower time frame, you'd actually see a pullback on the 1 minute chart and a continuation right here. And this is actually becoming swing structure on a lower time frame. So the easiest way to know the candle or the high that, and so the easiest way to actually know like what candle or what high we need to go to actually be a valid change of character is a candle that failed to break a previous candle's low. And so basically this candle right here, it failed to break this candle's low. And so that creates a high in the market. And again, this is something I go over really in depth in the course. If it's not making sense, I totally get it. Like this is not an easy it's funny because like change of character is so simple, but understanding what's happening here is actually pretty complex because you have multiple time frames. You have a wick, not a breaker structure. Like understanding all this is not exactly easy, and I totally get it. But the change of character basically happens when price takes out an old high on a lower time frame. And so how we can find the old high on a lower time frame is finding the candle that failed to break the previous candle's low. So looking at this down move, let's just back up a little bit. Just forget about the change of character right now. Looking at this down move, we can see this candle, the bottom, the wick of this candle broke this candle's low. This candle here broke this candle's low. This candle here broke this previous candle's low. This candle again broke this previous candle's low. Again, or not again, this candle did not break this candle's low. So we could also anticipate a change of character happening right here. If for some reason you were expecting price to turn around right here, this would actually be a point that needed to go for a change of character. But in the next candle, this down move actually broke this candle here. So we have a small pullback in price. If you drop down to a 1 minute time frame, this would actually be a small little pullback before a continuation. And so again, this candle broke this candle's low. This candle did not break this candle's low, and this candle did not break this candle's low. This candle did break this candle's low. So from this point, from this low all the way to right here is actually a pullback on a lower time frame. And we can see this candle actually broke this candle's high and tried to, again, in this candle, break that high again. And so I get this is actually becoming more and more confusing like as I'm saying it, but the pullback on this time frame and then this continuation, this one candle, now becomes swing structure on a lower time frame. And so the fact that we have this candle here that failed to break this candle's low and it sets a new high in the market above this, followed by this candle. And so the fact that we have this candle right here that failed to break this candle's low, but it also made a new high on the lower time frame. At this point in time, this would be if you were watching this live, this would be the actual change of character point. So if you just backed up all the way to right here and price came down, wicked this low and went up again. Okay, and so the fact that we have this candle right here, this bull candle that actually failed to break below this low and set a new high, and it was successfully set a new high on a lower time frame, which wicked back down, opened this candle where it then rallied up and down. Okay, so the fact that we have this bull candle right here that failed to break below this candle's low signifies the pullback from here to here. So from this candle's wick low to this candle's wick high, that is a pullback. The minute that this price retraces back down and closes right here, opening this 5 minute candle, we can see a lot of indecision, but we can also see a new high and a new low. And so by default, that this candle opened and closed in. Okay, so because we have the 5-minute candle right here and here that failed to break this candle's low, this means that this move right here all the way up to this high is actually a pullback on a lower time frame. And in this same 5-minute candle, so if you actually drop down to a 1-minute time frame, we can actually see a low pullback and tried to continue where it then rallied up and broke this high. So if you were in a market, so at the point where this candle breaks this candle's high, this is actually a fractal breakup structure, also known as a change of character. The reason why is because if we actually drop down to a 1-minute time frame, I'm going to just drop down really quick. I don't want this to confuse you, but I think it will help illustrate what's happening here a little bit better. So this is like we were talking about, those 5-minute candles. This is a pullback. Price tries to continue. It wicks this low, pulls back. It doesn't actually trade above this high, pulls back, and then trades again. And right the minute that this actually trades a micro pip above this high, that's a change of character. And so what's happening here is on the 1-minute time frame, this is a pullback and a continuation that actually fails. And the 1 minute is actually changing swing structure. And so the minute that this price or the price takes out this old high, we now know that on the lower time frame, on the 1-minute time frame, the swing structure has changed, and that is what we call a change of character. It's not the swing structure changing, it's just the fact that on the 5-minute chart, price wicked this fractal high and caused a change of character, which is the first indication that that price is actually going to continue this run, which it obviously does. And so basically, this is a really complicated long video saying that it's a change of character is the lower time frame from what you're looking at changing trend, and it's the earliest sign that the time frame you are looking at is going to actually have a continuation or a pullback depending on the direction that you're trading. So let's look at another example. We can see right here, here it is. We can see on, again, this is on Sunday, February 19th, around 10:30 at night, New York time. We can see here a similar idea again. So price pulls back. We have a pause. Oops, hold on. So just to like illustrate what we're looking at here, we can see price rallies up. We have a pullback beginning, pullback. We have a small pause in price action. Pullback again. We have a continuation that breaks above that pause. Pull back into the zone and continuation. And so we can see again, just to clarify, this is actually a pullback on the 5-minute that's correcting from this run up here. Pullback, we have a slight pause in structure. So again, it does not matter what color the candles are. It doesn't matter so again, it doesn't matter what color the candles are. It's just the fact that we have a pause in price action where it tries to pull back, continues down, fails to actually close below this low, and then price comes back up and wicks this high, at which point the lower time frame is actually a changing trend, and it's the earliest sign of a change of character, or it is a change of character on the 5-minute chart, which is the earliest sign that the continuation is going to happen and that the trend is going to continue. So again, if you were trading right here, we have a change of character, which happens after a pause in price action. So we have a pullback right here, continuation. At this wick of this low, price then comes back up and tries to continue, which it fails to do so. It turns around, and I actually just marked that wrong. At the wick of this high, that's our change of character. So as soon as we get the wick of this high on this candle right here, that's actually our change of character. And what's happening most likely if we drop down is the 1 minute is actually changing swing structure. And so I'm not going to get into a lot of detail in this free course talking about like the lower time frames and the swing structure. I think just showing you that kind of helps you understand what's happening on the time frame below it. So again, a change of character is just fractal structure changing trend, and it's the earliest sign that we have a continuation happening in any market on any time frame. Again, it does not matter what chart you're looking at. It doesn't matter at what time frame you're looking at. This applies to any topic. This applies to any financial instrument on any time frame. And so to wrap up this video, I just want to show you a few times in which change of character doesn't matter, just to prove a point that you're going to see this a lot. And it's not necessarily actually meaning that you're going to find the home run trade or that you should even be taking the trade in general. So going back to the first example here, we had the change of character and the continuation. And I always like to just like illustrate or talk out what's happening in price before actually breaking it down. So we had the pullback, slight corrective pullback, continuation, pullback, failed continuation, at which point we had a change of character, pull back into the zone, and the overall swing trend, the 5-minute trend continues. We have a pullback here, continuation, we have a pullback here, and then a failed higher high, pullback, and you can see here we have a wick that goes below this low, and this is actually a change of character. So at this point, price then trades back up and continues down, continues down, continues down, and it gets really messy. Again, like I said, this is actually a holiday, but that first change of character, you could trade that if you wanted to, but all it's signifying in this case is that this is actually a pullback happening on that's counter trend to our 5-minute trend that we're trading here. So because of this break of structure, we know that price is bullish and that it's most likely to continue the bullish trend, but eventually it does have to pull back. And so in this scenario, this change of character is actually just signifying that a pullback is likely to happen, okay? And so if you're actually trading all the way up to this point right here, you could use that to actually begin to close out or completely close your position if you entered in down here, okay? So if you entered in down here and you came all the way up, you were holding your full volume up to this high, and you saw this fractal low go, perhaps like myself, like I was doing, you might just say, okay, that's all that's going to be offered today, and I'm just going to take it and run. You could also then begin to hedge. So this is just a few where I realize I'm getting ahead of myself in this video, but I want this to actually transition into the next videos talking about entries and management and putting it all together. So at this point, if you saw this fractal logo, you could say, okay, hey, I understand that price always has to pull back and we have a change of character. So I'm going to allow price to just see what happens. If it clears this high again and continues, then great. If it doesn't clear this high and it comes back down somewhere in this area, according to your management and your trade plan, you could use that to say, okay, this actual leg of this trend is over. This change of character symbolizes that most likely this trend is exhausted and it's going to pull back and then continue at some point in the future. So obviously we have no idea of knowing. This could just be, at this point, if you're trading in this chart, this could just be a pullback and a liquidity grab. It could just be wicking that low, at which point it continues on and continues doing this. And that's something that you just have to accept with your trading and with change of character, that it does not, it's not just like anything else, it's not guaranteed. Doesn't ever guarantee anything. In this example, this is actually just a perfect textbook example of what likely is going to happen when you do see a change of character. So again, it pulls back up into this range and we have a break of structure, just like our drawn examples we were going over earlier. We always have a break of structure following a change of character, at which point we can then see price continuing on back into this range. Again, we can see this counter trend moves, very corrective, very messy, wicking. It's not really actually, like, these down moves aren't actually moving that far, which is another way to tell that if you're in a pullback. And we can see, price just continues on. And here, we actually, they're somewhere in here. Let me just find, I just want to find one other example that I remember seeing in here of a point where, okay, yeah, it was actually later on after this session. Price, like this is a perfect example of how change of character is not perfect, just like nothing is perfect. We can see here, price pulls back. So above these highs right here, you could, depending on how you market structure, you could see this as a change of character. At which point you may think, okay, the pullback is done, we have a change of character, and I want to take this higher. Well, just because you get a change of character does not mean that the trend is actually going to continue. And obviously it did in this example, reverse and continue lower. But you may be the type of trader who sets, okay, I'm going to set a pending order right here, wait for the change of character, wait for it to come back to mitigate it, and continue on. In this case, you'd have taken a loss. And you could have then said, okay, well, now that this low failed and went, I think that the trend may continue going lower, because you could also see this as a change of character to continue a trend lower. So this move down here could be your indication of a change of character, and it then comes back up and wicks this high, at which point you may also think, okay, this is also another change of character. So as you can see, it then continues down and wicks this low, which could be another change of character. And that's what I'm trying to say, is that it doesn't necessarily always present itself in such like a textbook example. And it can be just messy price action. And so that, I think, is a great point to wrap up this video.